hi.
Welcome. Sorry, I had a little bit of a technical difficulty. I
Oh,
hit the wrong button. Sorry.
Yeah,
Welcome to
Brian
Movie
thought his
Phone.
Brian thought his button was a glass of scotch.
No, I'm dry this month. Welcome to Lawfully Chaotic, Season 2, Episode 2. Thank you for joining us. Tonight we are going to be continuing the OGL drama discussion because it seems like a hot button issue. So we will be talking about that. Sharon is going to moderate our chat because she's way better at it than we are. And we're going to talk about some other stuff too. Before we start, any announcements, Sharon?
Nothing really to report. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Lawfully Chaotic. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here and to discuss all things OGL tonight. It is really popping off and people are really getting upset.
Yeah, rant time. Jason, you got any announcements?
Yeah, 2 of our new shows went live over at TTRPG Academy. Went live last Sunday. Mad Mage, the Adventures, or the Undermountain, the Adventures of the Mad Mage, because I've completely rewritten their shitty content and made it more fun. We also went live with Fool's Errand, which is a homebrew that I wrote about the Shattered Isles, which has no content written at all other than what Matt has in his book as a baseline. So that's been a lot of fun. I rarely get to write a lot of true raw homebrew, so that's been great. Other than that, my technical issues have been resolved. It turns out water cooling systems on your computer are a must. It died on me Saturday, or I think it was Saturday, right? That I had to cancel because I couldn't get it to work and couldn't find the part and blah blah blah. So, yeah,
Cool.
we're
You should build a. Have you ever seen people who build PCs in a fish tank with mineral oil?
no, because that sounds very dangerous.
It's
What?
cool as shit. No, it's cool as shit. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. All right. Well, that's good to hear that is solved. 3 Miles, thank you for joining us. Torch, thank you for joining us. My only announcement this week is to share this. My best friend who I've known since junior high picked this up for me for my birthday last month. I've been trying to find a frame for it. I don't want to mount it the way I mount my other stuff. But this is a first edition of the DM's Guide, and it is in fantastic shape. The funny thing is, I never owned the DM's Guide as a kid.
Really?
I never DM'd when we were kids, so I've never
that's
had
crazy.
one. So this was
crazy.
This was extra special. So just thought I would share that for some show and tell. And with that, yeah, OGL.
I know, right, George?
Let's
Guys, what's going on? People are losing their minds.
Yeah, they are. Before I do a summary, though, I want to talk about the community in general, right? It's rare that there's, for once, we all have a big bad. And it's not like we didn't know they were a big bad. We just had high hopes that they wouldn't lose the understanding of how important the community was. There was always hope. Hope is not a strategy, and Magic the Gathering should have been the canary in the coal mine. The tragedy of that and what they did with that should have all led us to believe that they were clearly looking for revenue and not really community.
Now, I actually was I used to play Magic the Gathering, not when it first came out, but shortly after. I think I got in at, I've got a few cards from Alpha and whatnot, but I think I got in Antiquities Arabian Nights or something like that. But it doesn't matter. I've been out of it for so long. I still have all my cards. I probably got 10,000 cards, downstairs or whatever. But for those who don't know, because I didn't know about it, explain what they did with Magic the Gathering.
So
quick explanation.
Yeah, the bearded gnome was just Brian was just pinging me.
Yeah, sorry. That was the technical difficulty.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the show, Pat. Fuck you.
I
just quick, 2
yeah. So basically, they took this amazing product that had a lot of collectability around it, and the way they produced it and put it out, kind of made it fun, made it collectible, made it valuable, and once again, it created a third-party market. It created a resale market, right? So
well, that was the idea of the game. It was a collectible card game.
Right. So with the 30th anniversary, they released a very kind of blasé release with virtually no collectibles. Mm-hmm. And then they announced they're going to do that every month when it used to be like, I think 2 or 3 times a year, if even that, right? And there were supposed to be these amazing expansions and these amazing pieces of art and these amazing quality things that was supposed to energize and really like pique the interest of the folks. And I think when they released that special 1,000 issue of these 1,000 collectible boxes for the 30th anniversary, it was like $1,000 or $1,500 to buy the box, and they sold like 149 of them out of the stack because they announced just how uncollectible it was going to become because they were changing all the rules related to how MTG was doing the releases. Now, I could be off a bit on some of those statistics, but I'm reasonably certain that was the landmine we've all should have seen going off to tell us that they've gone full corporate.
Okay, so basically they're fleecing their community.
Correct.
Yeah,
okay.
They don't care.
And the reason why I want to talk about this community is I've been watching everything unfold for the last 2 weeks. I've purposely haven't gotten involved in the social, threads and stuff, just reading what everyone's doing, watching what everyone's doing. 2 amazing things have come out of the community. The major third-party producers, Cobalt Press, Paizo, and some of the others, are now beginning to draft their own TTRPG OGL rules. Mm-hmm. There's also the original author of the OGL 1.0 starting a fundraiser to petition to protect the OGL. Everybody with competing interests, whether you're a printer, a product designer, somebody, wherever you are in the space as a community, whether you're always competing for each other's opportunity to sell within that space, has kind of all been shoved to the side. And everybody is now realizing that our friendly community of competition is really how this business should be run versus this corporate diatribe that looks at the community purely for monetary gain.
Monopoly.
No social barometer, no moralistic barometer.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So I totally agree. This is obviously, this obviously has to do with being acquired by Hasbro. Okay. At least in part.
I have an argument for that, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And again, that's just pure conjecture, right? I do agree with you. They have no clue how important the community is to their product. They really don't. And the reason that I can say that is because they have never done anything to develop, curate, and support their community. And people, a lot of people will take that and they'll say, well, what the hell do you mean? There's a robust community and blah, blah, blah. The robust community exists because of itself, not because anything that WotC has done.
Right.
Okay. And I will actually play devil's advocate on the monetization aspect and say that they could have, and we've talked about this,
right?
They could have done it right, a la World of Warcraft, Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, what have you, and developed the social community and taken advantage of it, for lack of a better word, but in a good way by, the subscription model, the microtransactions, all that stuff that would have actually probably been received very well. I mean, their weak attempt at it was Adventurers League. which was stupid and went nowhere. So they have done nothing to embrace the community who embraces their product. And now, because they've got these corporate overlords, now they're in panic mode. Oh, what can we do to monetize? And what's the easiest thing to do? Let's just rape our fucking customer base.
So,
and I still think, in regards to the OGL itself, and I think this conversation is going to take the tone of talking more about the community response than the actual OGL. We talked about that last time.
Well, you will summarize it about their response, but yeah, I was hoping to focus on the community.
Right. So all I will say about the OGL itself is I still feel that the tiers, at face value, I think what they did seems fair. But once you start reading into it, you realize just how fucking dubious it is. We can change anything at any time. We could cancel anything at any time. We own all the shit that everybody creates. It's ridiculous. And getting back to how the community is responding, I mean, I think they have just imploded themselves. They just took the pin out of a grenade and fucking dropped it at their feet. Because even if they completely reverse what they've said and apologize, they've already lit the fuse, and people have already realized, like, well, fuck this, I'll just do it myself.
Well, so I got a couple responses to that because I think it's interesting, and I want to talk about Hasbro for a moment because they are a part of the community to a certain degree, right? Because Hasbro is a major player of games, toys, digital space, right? This is the market they are, right? And they are a market. They're a corporation looking to make a profit because they, have to be beholden to their shareholders. To 3 Miles' point that Barry just flashed up there, I was watching an interesting YouTuber. I wish I could remember his name, and I can't. Not combat, run combat, but something like, yeah. So I forget. There's so many of them out there, and I got to start keeping a list.
Keep talking. I'll find you the name.
Yeah. Basically, the Hasbro, Hasbro has to be accountable to their shareholders, right? So they call and do their quarterly reports, and if you're a shareholder, you could call into the number and listen. So for years and years and years, they were interviewing a guy who said that they never mentioned WotC for years. And it turns out the reason why they never mentioned WotC is because WotC is 50% of their revenue share. Half. Mm-hmm. It's half their revenue. And they never reported that in a correct way. Once again, being very kind of conniving about it. The other thing, too, is the OGL response was due out today, 3:00 Eastern time. And they were supposed to drop the 1.1. Everyone was hoping for a response, and they were supposed to drop the new OGL content. Well, they canceled the...
Asmon Gold.
Yeah.
Is the YouTuber.
Yeah, that was the one who was kind of like tearing into them about Magic the Gathering and calling them lizards, which I think is a hysterical reference. But so they didn't cancel the OGL changes. They didn't cancel them. What they did is they said next week they'll show us 2.0. So they didn't cancel them. They canceled the meeting, or they canceled the presentation and the announcement. And now they're saying 2.0 is going to come out next Thursday or next Tuesday. They're trying to figure out which day it's going to be released on. So, yeah.
You can't stuff the shit back in the asshole.
Well, but there is a way you could save all this, but I don't believe they have the political clout and the corporate ability to save all this. But it's there. You could do it. You could very well do it. It wouldn't be hard at all, right? People get fired for a lot less reasons than this.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells the community a lot when you're firing people. When Matt Colville left, he, 6 months, well, I don't know when he left, but 6 months ago, he did a podcast, and everything that's happening right now, he was like, talking about it. and that was one of his reasons I suspect that he left. It's one of the reasons why I suspect a lot of other people left to go work on different projects. And, Matt Koval's having amazing success with, I think it's MDMC or whatever he calls it. I always have a hard time remembering it. Because he's back in his creative space. He gets to be a super creative, So 2.0 is coming next week. They're going to make a decision. They're still probably not going to care about the community.
MCDM Productions.
They're going to change just enough to say, oh, well, that's not too bad then, because anything's going to be better than what they showed us. So the psychological, deceit factor is in. Now, the community banded together and said, look, if money is all they care about, then go to D&D Beyond and cancel your subscriptions. So next thing you know, their servers are crashing. The entire community hashtagged it, and it became this big, like steamroll. Once the social community can do something that only takes a minute to do, they love doing it, right? It's fun. You can see that immediate visceral response. So what did D&D Beyond do? They brought their site down for 5 minutes and then removed the unsubscribe menu option from the account profile.
Oh, you're fucking shitting me.
And then they hit it. They hit it deeper in the menu. So you have to do multiple.
No, that is so shady.
Are you for real?
Yeah. That's what they did. Yeah.
Jesus, so, that's like fucking Binance saying, we're holding withdrawals.
But there's a bigger story to that than the idea of it being shady, right? There's perception, and then there's why they did it. Now, D&D Beyond is a technical machine. I know why they did it, because the server that was handling those functions couldn't handle the traffic. The only thing they could do was spin up a copy of it, but they couldn't put it on the same cluster. And because they couldn't put it on the same cluster, their only way to fix the server from staying down was to do what they did. So I get the technical reason why they did it, but it shows that
optics of that.
Yes, it shows that continuous
fucking horrendous.
Yeah, it just shows that disconnect.
Like a middle finger to everybody.
And this is why I have said that they've already, they have lit the fuse. They have fucked themselves royally. And it sucks. And this goes back to all our conversations about OGL and about the movie and about D&D and all that stuff they are now, Wizards, D&D, TSR, all the way up through Wizards of the Coast before Hasbro was basically content to just put out this product. And it was like, a perpetual motion machine, right? It just continued on.
Torchseer. I agree.
It continued on.
They would have
of its own accord. Okay. Enter Hasbro. There you go. Everything starts to go to shit. And nobody over there, and I don't think at WotC they did either, but I think there was no impetus from up on high that there is now at Hasbro. Nobody, like I said, understands the importance of the community for this product. It's the only thing that has kept this game sustainable for 40 freaking years.
Well, more importantly,
and they don't have a fucking clue.
To that point, in the year 2000, it didn't keep it sustainable, it saved it. There would not be a D&D brand right now if they hadn't done what they did in the year 2000, because they had no market share. Right. They had no production goals. They had no idea what to do with licensing. They were still emptying out the old building in Geneva. And this is, once again, another representation of their lack of optics. You could tell that WotC was already the beginnings of a corporate behavior when they went into the art vault in Geneva, Lake Wisconsin, and nearly threw away every original piece of art that was sitting in the art vault. Somebody saved it all. If you ever get a chance, there's a great Amazon documentary on Amazon Prime, a documentary about, it's like the art of D&D, I think is the name of it. Yeah. They talk about how almost all of Elmore's stuff, all those amazing original pieces that were done in oil, right, on canvas, they're not numbered because there was only one ever made, right?
Yeah.
All these mock-ups and all these incredible things. And they're like, oh, we'll just throw it away. Well, the person cleaning out the vault was like, fuck you, I'm not throwing this away.
Oh my God.
I would have been like, okay, I'll throw it away. And then
and that's where you get into the idea of community versus corporate culture. I want to state with the utmost clarity, corporate culture is not capitalism. Corporate culture is greed that goes even beyond capitalism.
Yes.
Traditional capitalism believes in a healthy, sustainable profit that takes their labor in mind to the view and focus of what their business is trying to achieve.
Yeah, what Torch said is 100% true.
That culture then breeds community, right? So if you're a fan of a particular electronic item, if you're a fan of a particular car, if you're a fan of these particular items, the idea of capitalism was designed to be healthy. The reason why it's not healthy is because the only thing that corporate entities want is your money. That's it.
Yes.
That's all they want. And the reason why that is because they convinced the Supreme Court of this great nation of ours that corporations should have the same rights as people. That's how fucked up things are right now.
I've said pretty much the same for years. I mean, I've seen it in the creative industry, in the advertising industry for years. There was a time, and I'm not quite old enough to have experienced the Madman era, but I mean, I do remember a little bit about the old days of the advertising industry, and it is, suffice it to say, I've seen exactly that. You've got companies that were founded on their creative acumen, and they still tout that, and it has nothing to do with that anymore. It's all about metrics and bottom line.
Well,
and maximizing revenue, and it's a fucking shame. It really is.
Well,
and I've always said that good or even great isn't good enough. Okay. I mean, if your product is making X $million a year and everybody's happy, except for three people or one person, then
so every fourth quarter of every fiscal year, a group of people get into a room and say, okay, we're expecting a sluggish year. Our numbers are fine. Does anyone see any growth opportunities? Some hack at WotC probably thought this was a great opportunity to not only kind of get their political clout with the Hasbro Corp neck cheese, but decided that, money's great. I want more of it. So what this WotC hack did was dug into an analytical chart that said, hey, I had these numbers run last quarter. Let's see what this said. Oh, you know what? We've been talking about this for the last 5 years. And we've been talking about it more for the last 6 months because we fucked up MTG. And now we got to come up with with that revenue gap. Why don't we just, there's a lot of D&D stuff out there we're not getting royalties on. So let's see if we can't get those royalties into the cupboard. And that's exactly where this all came from. This is not, and that's how bad corporate cultures are. They're not even aware of how bad they are. They hide behind.
And I'm using Jeff's phrase. He's not in chat tonight, but that's called performative management. Not performance. Doesn't matter the performance as long as you're doing the tap dance.
Activity has anything to do with capitalism. If you read,
right.
I mean, if you just go read and do a little background work on what capitalism is defined as and what was intended to use as, this isn't what they're doing. What they're doing is just corporate greed, right?
Yeah.
And there's the other conversation they probably had was, and I don't know where they got the data for this, because honestly, 2022, the content they put out was garbage. They put out more digital. I have
to agree with you.
They put out more digital dice packs than they put out books.
Yeah, and even the books they came out with, I thought were just fluff.
Were either
You know?
blah, garbage, or intended to be pretty pieces of artwork for those that like to buy a physical, right? Once again, they're not paying attention to the rapid growth of the digital community. They still have this mixed approach to their community, and they have no idea what we're doing. They have no idea at all what we're doing as a community. And this optics that they keep glassing over just keeps kind of proving that point over and over again. So someone had decided, let's do this. And once they made that decision, that was the fire that lit this community. And what's happened with this community now is, like all fires that get lit, well, if they can't do it, then the community is going to do it. And that's going to very much reshape the next iteration of the D&D brand. WotC made the classic mistake. They thought their brand was theirs and it could hold its own. They ignored 20 years of history.
Yeah, they woke a sleeping giant and is very pissed.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't care what they do other than giving people a lifetime free subscription to whatever fucking content they have. I don't care what they do. Like I said, you can't shove the shit back in the cat. It's just not. They fuck themselves.
What is up with these terms?
I don't know. I was talking about this. I was talking about this earlier, and it's just fucking frustrating as shit. Because, and here I'm going to go off on a tangent just about corporate America in general. Yeah. Ready? Boom. No, it's just, I don't have a business degree. Okay. It can't be that fucking hard to run a company. The rules are simple. Don't be a dick. Don't be dicks to your customer base. Don't do things that are stupid. It's maybe naive as shit. But you've got these, like you said, you've got these hacks running these companies that are so far removed from the reality of what their product is and what their brand is that they make these bullshit decisions based on nothing but the paper in front of them. And they just, I don't have any, I'm disappointed because I really don't know what this is going to do for the game. I think it'll energize the community, and I'm excited to see what other content comes out. I'm a little disappointed that I don't know what the future of D&D is going to be, but I don't have any fucking sympathy for them. It's ridiculous because if somebody did feel strongly enough about it, and I know it's easy to say, we've all been there, I've been there. It's easy to say, well, somebody should have stood up and said, look, this is not the way to do things, but then you lose your job. But, you either lose your job or you're going to wind up losing, either lose your job today or you're going to lose it in 5 years when now you're I can
guarantee you some people probably did their best within that environment to do what they could do to be effective. Don't get me wrong. But once again, the digital environment has been leaning towards the subscription model. Everything's been going that route.
How long ago did you and I have that long discussion about how they could monetize this?
About 6 months ago, maybe even longer. Yeah, even so. The easiest thing they could have done was to leave the 1.0 alone as is to protect all the previous content, right? And then what they should have done is they should have started focusing on the subscription content and said, great, what could we do in our subscription to make it easier for everyone who's in the small category of the community to not have to jump through hoops to create content, but we still get a little bit of that revenue? Well, let's create some licensed tier subscription, right? If you just want the basic stuff, you want to be able to video stream live action and enjoy the game and let the video audience enjoy the game, pay $25 a month and you're covered for everything. You're good to go, right? You want to publish content, pay $50 a month and you're covered for everything, right? Mm-hmm. If you hit a certain tier where you're capitalized beyond $750,000 a year, which is a fair question to ask, right? Mm-hmm. Arrange something with them that's royalties based on a scaled number that makes sense for both parties. Mm-hmm. A flat 25% doesn't make any sense. That's just a money grab.
And that's kind
And
of
they're
what I was
trying to
saying
money grab.
last week, about overall at face value, again, it sounds fair. Those tiers are, in my opinion, surprisingly fair. $750,000. I mean, it's a lot of fucking money to be piggybacking off of somebody else's IP. But, it's all the other minutia.
It's very true.
That I think that it is totally. It's all the other
Netflix
minutia
destroyed The Witcher. Like, I will not watch the next season because I know Henry's going to be gone the following season. So I'm not going to watch it. I'm done.
I didn't like it at all, even with him. I hated that show. I didn't think I thought it sucked personally. But that's neither here nor there.
I definitely would have preferred the game over the show, but
sorry, go ahead, Chair.
The Witcher 3 was great. What are you talking about?
So anyway, I mean, to your point, there's just so many ways that they could have done it better than basically saying, we reserve the right to fuck you every way we can. Which is basically what they said.
Yeah. That's a good one too. It's like, for the last 10 years, we've all become familiar with the subscription model. It's our a la carte. It's the only a la carte we're ever going to get in the entertainment space. We're never going to get that single ubiquitous place we get to do everything we want for one flat fee.
Yeah.
Right? That's communism. Don't get to have that. Sorry. Right? But I got my Netflix. I've got my Hulu. I've got my YouTube subscription. So I'm willing to pay $100 a month to no longer have to be involved in that nightmare that is regular TV.
Yes.
500 channels of nothing,
Right.
So, I enjoy experiencing things that way. And you would think they would have enough people running the analytics to tell them that should be where their focus should be. That should be the direction they should be going in. But no, money margins and instant profit and the belief, they honestly believe this. This is what they believe over at WotC. They are now responsible for the success of their brand, and they don't need the community anymore. They believe that. I guarantee you, they believe that.
More power to them. And then everybody's going to wind up playing whatever Matt Mercer and Kobold Press and Matt Colville come out with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
The community would like to rage.
Yeah.
And frenzy.
But it's very true. And, it's like, and that's why talking about the community is so important, because that's the only reason I started playing the game back when I was 9 years old. It's because I was isolated, unhappy, and was in a miserable situation. And this game gave me an opportunity to meet new people, practice and exercise my imagination, and really find myself again and get my confidence back. Practice the idea of talking and writing and not being afraid of running a game. All those things that brought me to D&D back in, let's do some math together, huh? Let's see, I'm 51 and I started when I was 9. So 42 years ago when I started this game. Yeah, you're so right, Torch.
Yeah, it totally is. But the difference is, because I do the same thing, Torch. So the difference is when you and I are hired by that company as a contractor, we expect that, right? If WotC wants to pay me for all the shit that I create, some of the, I don't create as much as everybody else does, but if WotC wants to pay me, then I have no argument against it.
But I will say this much. TSR is not bereft of this either. I did live through the Gary Gygax licensing nightmare days, right? That was a real thing. And he licensed to anyone that would pay for it. Anybody. They didn't care. And the corresponding reality to that was with WotC when I went into Walmart and they had these 5 chunks of melted, painted globules in a plastic D&D container and they were trying to sell them as miniatures, I was like, holy crap. It's happening again. It's about to happen again. They're doing it again.
Let me read this.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I got exposure for you.
I can expose myself for free.
Same.
In fact, I can
do that.
threaten to expose, and you'll pay me not to do it. I assure you.
You want to see me
I
create
assure you.
exposure here? So this is interesting. Let me read this. I don't know why he's not in chat, and I'm gonna give him shit for that later. But this is my buddy Paul, who's part of my group with Jeff and Matt and Gary.
Yeah.
Dang it, Paul.
So he's our age, Jason, and he's been playing D&D for as long as us. And he also used to be an attorney. So this is what he just wrote in our Slack channel. WotC ain't a public utility. This license to develop stuff is a gift in any form. The concept of any type of open license like this is way more than most IP owners would be willing to give the general public. Most simply own all streams of revenue and only license folks one at a time, maximizing whatever leverage they have. Just try to make a token anything and see what happens.
Exactly.
And the ability to alter the deal at will is not unheard of either, but does have some limits, but really only as applied in a retroactive basis. Prospectively, they can do whatever they want. The level of spaz on this is hilarious. I mean, if you hate them, don't buy the game. And if the licensing terms are too onerous, don't develop stuff using their content. I really don't see a single problem with this legally, except for maybe application to past sales and products. And
So
even that has some teeth.
The part that he's missing, though, that a lot of the other lawyers are saying they can't get around, is that 1.0a is in perpetuity of.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that comes after 1.0a cannot revoke 1.0a.
Mm-hmm.
It's written that way on purpose. The guy who wrote it that way on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So there's and
I agree. And again, I agree with Paul. What little, and I don't have much. I will admit that, but what little of IP I know about being in the creative community. This is, again, at face value, this is overly generous in terms of IP, corporate IP. It's just not. It wasn't thought out well. And again, what we've been saying is, I think it was done, to your point, as how can we monetize this product more? Oh, well, here's a way at the expense of our loyal community.
Well,
and I think that's why people are so pissed. And,
rather
than embracing and working with the community, it just seemed like almost like not an ultimatum, but
it's an ultimatum. It definitely is, and I'll explain why it's an ultimatum. I use the word perpetuity because you can make anything mean something if you use that word. That word exists to make up words and to make up rules.
And it exists
in perpetuity of you being an asshole, Jason. I revoke your right to exist. Right? It's a great word. It means anything and everything you want it to mean. Right? And that word was used on purpose. But I'll say this much about why it's an ultimatum. They are okay with saying that WotC is the brand and we don't need you anymore. Go make your own stuff if you want to share the revenue. Go make your own stuff. Paizo, Matt Colville, Matt Mercer, you want to share the pie. If you want to be in the corporate trenches with us and you want to do everything we do, that's fine. We are the D&D brand. Go be your own brand and go do your own thing. It's an ultimatum. They're writing an ultimatum.
Yeah, you're right. And here's the problem with that. They should be writing, what they've basically said, especially, to, let's say, Critical Role and Netflix, Stranger Things. Okay. What they basically said is, hey, thank you for inadvertently promoting the fuck out of our product and elevating it to the place it is now. and now fuck you.
They
pay
didn't even. They couldn't
Go
even
back to
learn.
Goodfellas. Fuck you, pay me.
They they couldn't even learn an obvious lesson of success. The Kickstarter that was fundamentally the animated series of Vox Machina, right, was completely community driven.
Yeah.
Like that is the most obvious community statement you can make about how important the community is. An entire cultural relationship with this whole new iteration of the game, and they completely ignored it. They completely ignored it. I mean, that's because 2% of the remaining revenue that they're not getting in royalties is more valuable than that moralistic obligation.
I got nothing.
And
else
that's corporate greed. That's corporate greed for it. It's what they do.
Yeah, I got nothing else to add.
Nothing else to add to that. And for once, I'm sitting there going,
Jason,
shit.
you finally managed to shut me up.
Now you're just lying.
No, I mean you just summed it up perfectly, and there's nothing else I can really add. We should probably
the community. Yeah, I know. You should probably just call it quits and let's get going.
No, not at all. I'm done. You summed it up. So
I think the thing that really came out of this that really, really bolstered me is that just watching the community write and type and discourse and converse over this, and watching all I watched like 30 different YouTubers all talk about it in either repetitive ways in some cases, but they all tried to put a unique spin on it, whether they had whether it was Nerdocracy or there's at least 3 of them that I try to watch on the regular because I do like the way they decompose work. But Nerdarchy, I think, is one. There's DM Lair. He did a really good 10-minute speech about this that I thought was very pertinent to the community. Run Combat did one with a lawyer, like a commercial contracts lawyer, so he wasn't IP specific in law. Like, honestly, no lawyer worth their salt, no lawyer worth their salt is going to give you legal advice if they're not an IP lawyer. So but more importantly, can you go
No, Matt, what Matt said a minute ago, you flashed it up there, is that, he says, I guess I'm less worried about a world. Yeah. About a world without D&D. I mean, there will be a multitude of options. It's not like they've killed role-playing games. I think what's nice about D&D is anybody that's into role-playing, it's a common denominator. Everybody can experience it together. Everybody is familiar with it who plays. It's the mortar that holds the bricks of the community together, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you just blew that house up, you blew that foundation up, and there's going to be a lot of picking up of pieces, and a lot of rebuilding.
Corporate greed. So true.
Boom.
Yeah, it's so true. And I am going to beat one other horse to death on this. A really good summation of how bad corporations are capable of handling things is COVID. What corporations did during COVID was awful.
In what terms?
Relying on a national unemployment system to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
In Germany, all the companies paid their employees during the COVID lockdown. And then the government later on fixed the problem after the fact. It's one of the reasons why their economy normalized so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it was, you know what? Let the corporations fix the unemployment problem. It'll be fine. Really?
You mean the government fixed the unemployment?
No, the government was like, oh, we have unemployment ready for you. Just go ahead and use it. You remember those huge, long conversations about how you couldn't get into systems, things were collapsing. Had corporate America just paid everyone to stay home, it would have been settled later and easier. Yeah, I know, right?
Like, do the one above that. Do Twisteds.
You know what? That's
It's
that
just
is
secret nerd code.
Yeah, it's like, hey man, is that D&D shirt? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that Family Guy episode where the two bald guys are in the elevator.
Yeah.
Hey, are you bald? Yeah. And then they lick each other's bald head, and the one guy comes in. Oh, did I miss it? Did you already lick your bald head?
Yeah.
And look, I'm a professional DM. It's what I do as my side hustle. I run 2 private games.
Do you even crit, bro?
Yeah, I know, right? I run 2 private games. And
TM trademark on that. I'm making a t-shirt. Copyright.
And then I run 8 pay-to-play games. And I love my pay-to-play games. And we have a great time. But if I lose access to the D&D club, I don't know if I'm going to be doing that anymore. And because technically, if their license comes out a certain way, the D&D club network may have to shutter. They can't afford what those restrictions are. So
yeah, but then you will run other games.
I don't know if I don't think so. I think I would probably officially retire from D&D and pick up a different system and try something else.
No, that's what I'm saying. You'll run different systems.
Right, but there won't be that healthy network. It'll take too long for that network to be supportive. So
well, now will it? Because to your point, it took what, 2 minutes to bring down D&D Beyond servers and a day to fund Vox Machina. So who knows with what is going on right now, maybe there will be something to replace it sooner than we think.
It's all about how you collectively get about 20,000 people together in a single network talking about playing the game for a ticket. That takes time to build. Those things don't happen overnight. Right.
But the precedent is already there.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, once again, we don't know till 2.0 drops, right? Because 2.0 is dropping next week. Because there's no way they can hide this. They can't hide this time.
Yeah,
they have to show up.
I am quite certain that 2.0 will solve all of this.
Well, you didn't use the word hope, so at least you're being honest. I know, man. I know.
Like that optimism.
All right. Well, okay. So the moral of the story is fuck you, wizards. And what else do we have to talk about? Sharon, what else were we going to talk about for the last 10 minutes of tonight's show?
Well, everyone, I thought we would introduce everybody to the next episode of Lawfully Chaotic with a soft introduction for the Raven Queen.
But everybody has to sign our new OGL before you can hear it.
Yes.
That's been a topic, actually. Should we just put like a little OGL summary page somewhere to, whatever?
Torch, I'll give you a call out on that one when I start selling that shit. For real. Okay, sorry, Sharon. What? Yes, continue. Raven Queen.
Yes. So I'm actually going to read a small snippet from Jason, who created this storyline for the Raven Queen. Once upon a time, in a realm beyond the mortal world, there was a powerful goddess known as the Raven Queen. She was the ruler of death and fate, and her dark and mysterious nature commanded respect and fear from all who knew her. The Raven Queen was a formidable being with the ability to see the threads of fate and control the destinies of mortals and immortals alike. She was often depicted as a tall and regal woman with raven black hair and eyes as dark as the night sky. Despite her fearsome reputation, The Raven Queen. Ah, the Raven Queen was not a cruel or vengeful goddess. She simply fulfilled her duties as the ruler of death and fate, guiding souls to the afterlife and ensuring that all living beings met their predetermined end. Ooh.
God, we need
I love
sound
her.
effects.
I love
Yeah.
the Raven Queen. She's
I do
such a
too.
great character to
She
use.
is
awesome.
She is my
Yeah.
favorite. This. Okay, I'm not going to say it, but she is my. I was just going to go back to the whole OGL. No, she is the canon of the Raven Queen. In my opinion, is just it is so awesome. There's so much you can do with it.
The Raven Queen and the way the way that content came into existence is
Wizard in the Tower of Hasbro.
Oh my gosh.
the
It is
Tower
the cult of
Hasbro.
Hasbro.
The Tower community of Hasbro, where we feed on the flesh of dead children, and we toss old women and men off the cliff to honor the great god known as greed.
You must defeat them and their army of dorks. I meant orcs.
Hasbro.
The kingdom of Hasbro. Welcome to the kingdom of Hasbro. You will give up all
Hey,
of your
Thor,
rights
Does
immediately
mother know thou weareth your Hasbro?
and pay the king's tithe of everything you make.
Well, and here's why I love the Raven Queen's character so much. Number one, I fell in love with it first season, the way Matt used it with Liam O'Brien's character. That was a great way to show DMs how you can really have a lot of fun. Even as a bro.
Oh my god.
It was a great way
Holy
to show,
shit.
to kind of like expose a lot of newer DMs to the idea if you're going to bring like gods into a campaign. It was just really great. It also to me felt like it was the transition from the old narrative style into the new narrative style. Like the Raven Queen's NPC status and the way she was used in content definitely made narrative style more easily driven through that way that she was built. And you finally had a god that wasn't always good, wasn't always bad, right? You had a god that looked at the mortal world in a very unique way and evolved with it in a very unique way. And it was a great transition iteratively to this new style of play that we use now, this narrative role play.
Yeah, and there's so much you can do with it. Not only the good and the bad, but if you've read up on her,
I started building Hasbro's tower.
But her fickleness and her flights of rage and whatnot, and I think it's really cool because it's one of those. It's kind of like the anti-hero almost, or like the anti-hero goddess.
Well, it's almost like the anti-hero narrative, like the way it's defined in the narrative. She's just, sure, I'm a goddess, right? Big deal. It doesn't mean I'm going to do what you want me to do.
Yeah.
If you want to be my champion or you want to prove yourself to me.
She is my absolute favorite patron for a warlock.
Yeah,
she's my patron for my level 19 warlock. It's just
I love how ambiguous she is because she's even like freaking out the other gods in the pantheon too. Like they're just like they don't even know what to make of her.
That's what I mean.
So cool.
Yeah, you can use it to Jace's point. You can use it to set up basically any narrative.
Yeah,
and it change that narrative.
Yeah, and it's also I also think it's a creative way for players to get involved with deities and their backstory in a way that's not going to feel scary or overbearing to like a DM's narrative, right? It's got a lot of universal tangents that are easy to use, but there's enough ambiguity in it. You can be super creative in lots of different ways. A lot of the old school gods are written in very clandestine terms. And sometimes it's hard to use them in certain ways because those clandestine terms mean you got to rewrite a bunch of stuff. And I feel like with the Raven Queen, I don't have to rewrite. I can really utilize a lot of what's already there and just kind of put my own personal spin or tweak to the to the content for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tune in next week as we deep diver into the Raven Queen.
Yep.
Excellent.
I'm really
I can't
excited.
wait.
Whoa.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. Me too.
My favorite goddess.
Rollies. Rollies.
Rollies.
Rollies. Oh, by the way, tonight was our first go at meeting. I want everyone to meet our new show producer, Sharon Berrybot. Her hand-eye coordination is better because none of my hands work, and Brian's eyes don't work either. So we're going to be in the future. We're going to be always deferring to Berrybot for the chat. She's going to be our chat moderator. Always there. We'll help her when she asks for it, but we're going to try to do our best to get a little bit more streamlined this year. And yeah, I know, Flan. I know. Always the disturber. Always the disturber. All right, Rollies.
Woo,
All right.
go.
Oh my gosh, I got a natural 20. No, I'm sorry, that's a natural 1.
What'd you get,
Way to
Bear?
pull the rug. I got a
Wait.
7.
Yeah,
I got a
natural,
14.
I got a 1.
Wow.
So let's roll the bodies out of the room and take their loot. Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming out. Really do appreciate it. And remember, no matter what happens, we'll be here to remind you that it's probably not going to happen.
Thank you all for joining us.
Brian, where can we find you?
You could find me at You can find me at rpgandco.com on Instagram. You can message me there. I love talking to people. Also, linktree/rpgandco.com.
Berrybot, where can we find you?
Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of Lawfully Chaotic. You can catch me on Saturdays over at the Lawfully Chaotic channel and the TTRPG channel on Twitch and YouTube for our Graying Lands campaign, where I play a druid Calistar named Mayra. Come check us out, and you could also find me here at Berrybot on Instagram.
Yeah. Sweet.
And you can find me over at TTRPG Academy over at the Twitch.
Thanks, Jim.
I have live games in the studio on Monday. A new live game starting soon on Tuesday nights in the studio. We are live Saturday morning, as per Berrybot, for Graying Lands. We are also live Sundays, Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon, with the Mad Mage and Fool's Errand. So you can check out. That's what I do. All I do is run games. That's what I do, and I love it. I love this community. I love all the people. I love these two. We had a lot of fun tonight. We can cross the OGL shenanigans off our list.
Yeah.
When we come back next week, we're back in our regular content. So
everyone, I do. Hold on. I do just want to thank our chat. No, I just do want to thank our chat again. You guys have been really awesome. We've got a whole bunch of you, pretty much everybody here tonight. We got some new faces. Thank you for joining. But we've got a whole bunch of you that come back every week, and it's really, really awesome. And we really do love that.
We do appreciate it. Yep.
Yeah, because you guys really make us look better.
You guys are just awesome.
Than we would otherwise look.
Berrybot makes us look great, and the chat makes us look better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Listen, don't forget TPK.
Oh yeah. What does it stand for again?
Tell a story. Play a game.
Tell a story, play a game, and be kind.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye, all.